I'm not a lawyer, but child, motion day 2 with Judge Whitaker and the YSL trial is already starting off hot.
I'm heated right now.
I can tell.
Steam's been coming off my bald head all night.
Let me set it up for you. So during yesterday's hearing, Max Sharp specifically requested the transcripts for any additional ex parte meetings that have happened that the defense is unaware about. And they got what they asked for. After court yesterday, the defense gets the transcript from an ex parte meeting that happened 3 days before the ex parte that we already know about. I'm just going to play the video because it explains it all.
Yesterday, we received the transcript. We were made aware, leading to the recusal of Judge Glanville, that there was an ex parte meeting that occurred on June 10th, Monday, June 10th. We were not told by the state, we're not told by the judge that had occurred. We found out about it, luckily. We complained about said ex parte, inappropriate ex parte meeting. At no point, when the court finally acknowledged that there was an ex parte meeting that occurred on Monday, June 10th, at no point did the court or the state at that point acknowledge, oh, by the way, there was another ex parte meeting that occurred on June 7th. We sat there after finding out about one ex parte meeting and having to drag the truth out. We sat there and the state and their co-conspirator, the trial court, were silent about the first ex parte meeting that happened on June 7th. What happened in that meeting on June 7th? The state went in and disparaged defense counsel. The state, with no one else there, trashed a fellow member of the bar, Mr. Melnick, trashed another fellow member of the bar, Kayla Bumpus, presumed the guilt of all these individuals, including my client, Shannon Stillwell, and all but accused myself and Mr. Steele of being co-conspirators in this YSL enterprise. And the judge agreed. And the judge said in this ex parte meeting, yes, I've observed these things. The judge presumed the guilt of all the defendants. The judge presumed the guilt of myself and co-counsel, Mr. Steele. And all this, people have been saying to me throughout this whole trial, why does Judge Glanville have it out for you? And it never made sense. Why does he always tell you, yell at you, tell you to sit down and be quiet? Why does he cut you off at every opportunity? Why did he try to throw Brian Steele in jail for 20 days for doing what was right? And I didn't have an answer. And then yesterday I received, and I appreciate that, Judge. I appreciate someone finally being open about what's going on here. And I received a transcript. And in that transcript, the trial judge, who's not only assuming the guilt of my client, but is assuming the guilt of me and my friend, Mr. Steele. This is gross. This is disgusting. But it's all starting to make sense. It clicked when I read that transcript last night. This is not okay. Nothing about this is okay. These gentlemen have a right to a fair and impartial judge. And I appreciate the fact that you are going to be a fair and impartial judge. But the reality, Judge, is that they don't have a right to a fair and impartial judge starting on witness 76 of a trial after 9 months or whatever it is. They have the right to a fair and impartial judge from the beginning. And this is absolutely gross and disgusting. The bottom line is there's a lot more discussions that need to be had about this. But the bottom line is, if you ask me, do we need to revisit the rulings of the judge who sits in chambers secretly and talks to the other side and says, yes, I've been observing this. I've been observing this about what's going on in the trial.
All right.
Do we need to revisit those rulings? Absolutely, we need to revisit those rulings. We need to revisit everything. This is broken, and it's not okay. I'm heated right now.
I can tell.
Steam's been coming off my bald head all night. We need to revisit everything. That's my stance.
I understand you being upset, and I understand why you and probably some of your fellow defense counsel on this side of the room are upset. I do not think that everything you said is a fair characterization of what that June 7th transcript reflects. But once we have the official copy, that'll be made a part of the record, and that will show what actually happened, what actually was said. If I determine that that there was coercion that is unconstitutional or structural error, then I will grant a mistrial. If not, then the case will move forward and we can consider again all of the evidentiary rulings with regard to the videos and audios that might be used with Mr. Copeland, because that's the witness that we are on the stand with right now.
I'd also like to thank Your Honor for the reminder regarding professionalism. I was going to ask that the court require that we all adhere to that. Being called co-conspirators is not something that I would expect to have heard, no more than I would expect to level a assertion that Mr. Sharp is a defendant. So I'd ask that that all sides be required to adhere to the court's admonition.
Okay, well, again, the transcript will reflect what was actually said in there, and there are some allegations that if I were an attorney and it were leveled against me, I mean, I am an attorney, but you know what I mean, practicing in a case, I would be a little hot under the collar as well. Y'all had potentially legitimate concerns. I don't honestly at this point right now need to rehash all of that. But the reminder is to everybody.
I filed a supplement to the Mr. Kendrick's motion for a mistrial this morning. I just want to make sure the court's aware of it.
I am aware of it. I have not yet had a chance to look at it, but that's got it.
Thank you, Your Honor. But I just want to make sure that the court understands that based on this additional information that we learned about the July 7th meeting, that my client has been consistently denied his right to a fair tribunal. It's been a due process violation. Myself and my fellow outside agitators over here, I assume that they are upset as well. And
I don't think, honestly, I don't think that that reference was to anybody who is a member of the bar. I think that there have been times in this case where members of the public are in the courtroom, which they are, of course, entitled to be, but communicating in ways that are not appropriate.
well, you know, the problem, Your Honor, is that since this was an ex parte meeting that should probably have never taken place, you were not there, I was not there, my fellow outside agitators weren't there, we don't have a video of it, so I have no idea specifically if that was not referred to us. What I do know is that I have been arguing with people for 18 months that Chief Judge Glanville was doing his best, that he was trying to rule to the best of his ability based on the evidence and the law before him, and now I have been made to look like an idiot. So
well,
I do not believe that this trial should continue, Your Honor.
I understand. Thank you. I'll take your supplement under consideration. Like I say, I haven't, obviously you just filed it and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I will consider that in the overall context of the motion I was already considering. And, you know, I don't know that everybody's not going to want to come up here and do their 5 minutes of how outraged they are. If y'all feel like you need to get it off your chest, come on. Now's the time.
Okay, I got one more thing to say there. I don't believe that this is performative outrage, Your Honor. I
mean, I don't either.
Okay.
I don't either. I already said I understand.
But what did I say to people? Chief Judge Glanville is doing his best. He is doing his best. I don't even know what to say to my client, Your Honor.
All right. Well, you know.
What do I say?
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what to say right now either. Well, again, I understand frustration. You know, let's be careful about disparaging a respected judge. I don't think you're wrong that he has been trying his best and doing his best. I will look at the 2 transcripts and I will make a ruling. And again, I don't think that the characterizations are exactly accurate. But I'll consider it all in context and I'll make a ruling. Anybody else, or can we move on to evidence?
So, as Doug Weinstein mentioned, he filed a supplement to his motion for a mistrial. And shout out to Kat No Williams because she posted the motion, which includes the transcript. First, let's start off with a few excerpts from the motion itself, which says, quote, yesterday after court, Kendrick received a rough transcript of an additional secret ex parte meeting with Judge Glanville held on Friday, June 7, 2024. The rough transcript was helpfully provided by this court to defense counsel. A reading of the rough transcript highlights that which has been obvious to all observers except for Kendrick's counsel for the past 19 months. Judge Glanville has been willfully biased in acting as a member of the prosecution team since the inception of this case. Kendrick's counsel takes no pleasure in alerting this honorable court to the situation, but client obligations require it. Due process requires a fair trial. It goes on to say, quote, it is not a fair trial when in an ex parte meeting, Glanville, Love, and Hilton gossip like yentas over 13 pages of transcript about attorneys Shart, Melnick, and Steele. It is not a fair trial when in an ex parte meeting, Glanville, Love, and Hilton assassinate the character of attorney Melnick and attack his integrity, alleging that he is not acting in the best interest of his client, Copeland. It is not a fair trial when in an ex parte meeting, Glanville, Love, and Hilton attack attorney Bumpus for allegedly hugging Kendrick and stating that she is incapable of representing Copeland. It is not a fair trial when in an ex parte meeting, Love lies to Glanville about an email she received from attorney Melnick. Not a fair trial when in an ex parte meeting, Glanville starts talking about, quote, outside agitators, stating my comments today were predicated on there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background, and it shouldn't have to do anything with you all's case. It really shouldn't, but I think it does in some way. Outside agitators. Motion ends saying, how many violations of the Georgia Code of Judicial Conduct does it take to get a mistrial with prejudice? This case is like an old house that the present honorable judge is tasked with renovating. Every time a piece of pasted up wallpaper is removed, more rot is found hidden underneath. No Herculean effort by the present court can fix the due process violations of the last judge. This house must be torn down. A mistrial should be declared and retrial barred due to prosecutorial and judicial misconduct that has goaded Kendrick into the present motion. Now let's get to the transcript. It starts off with Attorney Love saying, Judge, the reason that I specifically wanted to talk with you is that I have a concern about the representation being made of the representation of Mr. Copeland. I am concerned and I am sort of not. I wanted to just bring it to the court's attention. Mr. Melnick has not conveyed to either Ms. Hilton, myself, or any members of the state any legitimate concern that he has regarding Kenneth Copeland testifying. What we have seen is physical interactions with persons besides Mr. Copeland that would indicate that Mr. Copeland is not Mr. Melnick's primary priority. And it would seem his actions convey that it is not Mr. Copeland's best interest that is his priority. Ms. Hilton was out speaking with Mr. Copeland at Mr. Copeland's request at the time that I announced that Ms. Hilton was calling Mr. Copeland. What I did not know is that she was trying to tell you to give us a minute because Mr. Copeland was feverishly, and I will let her speak as to how that went down, feverishly trying to get her in there to convey to her something that Mr. Melnick had just said to him that did not come from us. Ms. Hilton says, so let me just put the order of operation. I got up because Deputy Chief Long said, he wants to talk to you. Come out right now. If you remember the first day that Kenneth Copeland testified, Attorney Love stood up and said, Ms. Hilton calls Kenneth Copeland to the stand. And she did because Ms. Hilton was not in the courtroom. That's what she's referring to here, that apparently she was out there because Kenneth Copeland was trying to get her attention about something.
Summon our jurors, please. Without further delay, we're going to go ahead and call the next witness. State.
Ms. Hilton calls Kenneth Copeland to the stand.
All right, summon Mr. Copeland, please.
So when I went into the room, Melnick either came in or came outside. And what Mr. Copeland said, and I think he wanted to get some autonomy, quote, I want to talk to you. He's like, I've already talked to you, but I want to talk to her. And Mr. Melnick kept like blocking him being able to talk to me. So eventually I was like, well, clearly you want to talk to him. So I'll step out and you can come in. Mr. Melnick spoke to him. And I think he was trying to eat up time because he knew that you were coming out. So by the time I got back in there and he started to talk, that is when everyone said, come on, the judge is waiting. And that's when he stormed in angry. Miss Love says, he being Mr. Copeland. Then Miss Hilton says, because I think he was trying to convey to me some concerns he had. And so I was trying to have that conversation because Mr. Copeland and I have been having really good conversations since Friday, like very, very good conversations. Just not even about the facts of the case, but just life experiences. So I think I was building a rapport with him such that he thought I lied to him. So I was trying to explain to him. Miss Love says, and by that she means today. Miss Hilton says, today about what was going to happen. Miss Love says, because of what someone conveyed to him. Miss Hilton says, we believe that something was being conveyed. What happened is as Mr. Copeland was walking back into the courtroom, Mr. Melnick, but he said, quote, they are going to hammer you. And that made me ask Miss Love, did you say something about hammering him? And I don't know who. Miss Love says, nobody did. Nobody did. The judge says, it doesn't make sense you would say that to him. Miss Love said, we never said that. The court said, but anyways, okay. Miss Hilton says, timing of everything is very ironic. I don't believe that Mr. Copeland's best interest is being served at this moment, given that, Mr. Melnick was willing to take a vacation and let him languish in jail. And that is not, we would have communicated that we never wanted Mr. Copeland to go to jail. So I asked Mr. Melnick, whose interests are you concerned about, your clients or Mr. Seals and Mr. Sharts? Because prior to, and this is not the first time Mr. Copeland has said he doesn't represent me. This is not the first time Mr. Melnick has, and let me be real clear, when he spoke of what was happening before, him representing Mr. Copeland and he told me that he didn't represent Mr. Copeland. He told me, the judge says, Mr. Melnick told you? Miss Love says, yes. Mr. Melnick told me previously that he wasn't representing him. I believe Mr. Melnick has inserted himself in a way that jeopardizes the best interests of our witness. I believe that in conveying to the court that Miss Bumpus is going to stand in his stead, Miss Bumpus has been, she had to be. She was, what is the word I'm looking for? The sheriff had to speak to her because she was in the courtroom trying to hug Jeffrey Williams. Miss Hilton says, no, she hugged Diamante Kendrick. Miss Love says, I'm sorry. Miss Hilton says, in fact, she hugged Diamante Kendrick and hugged Mr. Williams, and that's how Captain Kendall saw her, and Captain Kendall had her taken out. Miss Love says, she expressed dismay and concern in challenging her right to go interact in that manner with the defendant. So our concern is that it is not Mr. Copeland's best interests that are being represented. And that not only is that the case with respect to Mr. Copeland, who we have no interest in prosecuting, but there is a tampering of sorts going on in this person inserting himself where Mr. Copeland has been reaching out to speak to Miss Hilton, and that communication is being blocked by someone Mr. Copeland didn't reach out to. And the judge says, well, there's a lot of innuendo that they have asserted themselves. They, being some of the defense counsel, have inserted themselves in this particular process, and that's what Miss Love says. My concern is Mr. Melnick's insertion of himself. The judge says, what are you asking me to do? What are you asking me to do? And what do you think I can do? Miss Love says, that is the exercise. That is the homework for tonight. I wanted to let the court know that that is what we're looking into right now because there is a remedy because I have faith in our law. I love this thing. And I know there is a remedy because this can never be the first time this happened. It has been addressed. I just have to find it. So thank you for allowing us to audience with the court. I just wanted to make certain that we did it properly and we had everything on the record. The judge says, okay, well, like I said, I think that you brought your concerns to me. Without more, I don't know what else I can do, what else I can kind of do in terms of that. My comments today were predicated on there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background, and it shouldn't have anything to do with you all's case. It really shouldn't, but I think it does in some way, outside agitators. Miss Love says that too. The judge says, and everybody else who I think are trying to influence, Miss Love says that is absolutely happening. Miss Hilton says there's a lot going on. Miss Love says there is a presence. Yes, that's all I'll say. The judge says, but I see it from just being in the courtroom and tracking. But okay, if you find anything, we'll see where Monday leads us. And like I said, since we know he's going to potentially invoke, we'll see what his pleasure is. And so Miss Bumpus is going to be here. Miss Bumpus, hugging Mr. Kendrick and Mr. Williams, is going to be here representing the interests of Kenneth Copeland, who is supposed to testify against Mr. Kendrick and Mr. Williams. That is where we are. That doesn't pass a smell test. The judge says, all right, okay. And Miss Love says, thank you. So that's the transcript. That's the supplement to the motion. The judge allowed everybody to take about an hour and a half break, and she said they will resume. So in the words of Judge Glanville, we'll see where the day leads us.